Good afternoon and welcome to a Blind Prime book review. Yes, a book review. I told you we were going to do this a few weeks ago. I've just been trying to find, the time and a good book to talk to you about. Um, uh, okay, cool. I had to remember the author's name. We're talking about the book Service Model by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Now, Adrian Tchaikovsky is an amazing author, up and coming author. Over the past few years, I've read two of their books that I've absolutely enjoyed, and I do intend to get to the third one in the series. And those two books that I'm talking about are Children of Time and Children of Ruin. Now, Children of Time is a unique perspective book. Oh, this guy writes amazing perspectives. Okay, like you've grown so used to reading these books where it's just you're in the head of this one person and it's I this and I that and it's always a human being, and so you're like, all right, which perspective do we have now? Is this a Chad perspective? Is this a Karen perspective? Is this a Brad perspective? Oh boy, who do we have now that we're supposed to be inside the head of? Oh, is it going to be some crazy jock character who has a love for women and constantly thinks about them? Oh, joy. Finally, something new. No, it's not any of that. And I hope you enjoyed that bit of sarcasm there, because if you're an avid reader like me, and you have experienced that multiple times over, because it seems like a lot of these writers these days are just writing the same thing over and over again with some little different tweaks to it. It's not creative. It's not new. Nothing in those books brings me, like, illuminates me and makes me go, oh my God, I never even considered that before. But Adrian Tchaikovsky now is a different type of sci-fi writer. I read his books and I go, whoa, wait a minute. So Children of Time, which is not the book we're talking about today, but I want to bring it up. Children of Time is a really cool book. Has a unique perspective from the eyes of a few generations, because it spans a huge time span, but you're from the eyes of a jumping spider. Yes, yes, it's a perspective of a spider. And of course, you multiple different years worth of spiders, but still jumping spiders. And you get to experience the world through the spider's eyes. And how cool is that? That was what got me onto this guy. Okay, because if anyone can write a book from the perspective of a spider and actually make it interesting, why, I'm down for that. And then Children of Ruin came out. Oh wow, what's Children of Ruin about? Oh, it's just about octopi becoming more advanced and learning how to fly ships and trying to figure out how to save their world because they're advanced octopi and the perspective is from octopi. Straight up awesome. Okay, Children of Ruin, Children of Time, very, very cool. All right, and the scientific ideas in those books are also very unique. I love the idea of a gravity engine, and not in the sense that you're thinking. And this literally, they take gravity waves flow through the universe, and in those books, they figure out how to harness those gravity waves and kind of use their ship like a surfboard, get on that gravity wave, and then just go across the universe. It's cool stuff. I love it. I think it's a fun book series, and I wanted to bring that up so that you understand where I'm coming from whenever I tell you about Service Model by Adrian Tchaikovsky, because Service Model is just one of those books that has a unique perspective. Okay, this book is an apocalypse style book. I know you're thinking in your head, oh joy, another apocalypse book. What is it now? Is it zombies? Is it disease? Is it nuclear weapons? Is it an earthquake? Oh, joy. Tell me what happens in this apocalypse book now. Yeah, that's how you will react to just about every single apocalypse book that's been coming out over the last 20 years, because they're all basically the same. And this one, no. This one's different because you're from the perspective of a robot during the robot apocalypse. Yes, a robot. You're from the perspective of Charles the Valet, or Uncharles the Valet, or unassigned valet unit, depending on the time of the book in which you're reading it. Okay? It's just interesting. It's filled with logical. It's a logical comedy. Okay, You got to put your feet in the in the shoes of a computer to really enjoy this book, because it's all logical. Everything that Charles does is point A to point B kind of thinking. Okay, he doesn't make logical jumps of like point A to point Z like a human can do. No, he's a robot, so he's got to go A, B, C, D, E, F to get to Z. And it's fun reading that book and experiencing this world that's fallen apart. Because the robot apocalypse has happened. There's not many humans left, and Charles is trying to figure out what in the world is going on with this world. I mean, Charles is trying to figure out what's going on with this world, and it's a lot of fun. It brings out a perspective in book reading that I last time I experienced this perspective was the Robot series from Isaac Asimov, because you actually were in the head of a robot. You're in the head of a robot again, and I love it. It's something that I haven't experienced very often in reading, and that's why I'm bringing it up to you. Okay, I won't tell you about the vanilla stuff. All right, I won't tell you about the things that are the same flavor as everything else that I've read. I'm going to tell you about the flavors that I read that are just illuminated me, made me smile, made me think, got the brain working. All right, and I love books that get the brain working, because those are the good books. That's what a book is supposed to do. A book is supposed to get you thinking. A book is supposed to cause you to imagine things, and the book is supposed to describe things well enough that you can build this world in your mind, and you can just kind of experience a movie in your head if it's done the right way. Mm. I love coffee. I figured if I'm going to do book reviews, everybody does book reviews with coffee, right? So I might as well start doing my book reviews with coffee, because, well, who am I to say no to coffee? So that is the non-spoiler review for Service Model. Okay, I'm not really going to tell you much about it because I don't want to spoil anything for you if you intend to read this book and you're an individual who doesn't like spoilers, because this is a fun book, and I'm worried if I describe any of the funny moments in the book at the non-spoiler section, I'm going to ruin something for you, because it's just that good, and I don't want to ruin any of the jokes. All right, it is written as a comedy, and you gotta remember, though, you won't get the jokes in this comedy unless you're thinking like a computer. So you have got to think like a computer to get these jokes. And you've also got to be able to look at it and see it from the perspective of an individual watching a computer do this stuff. And it's pretty funny. It's great. So that's the non-spoiler review. Individuals who are watching after this point, this is the spoiler review. And this is the spoiler review. This is the spoiler review. You have been warned thrice. Don't yell at me in the comments. Okay, so the spoiler review for Service Model is this guy. All right, Charles, not guy. This robot Charles, kind of he's doing his normal tasks. He's actually thinking a lot about his tasks at the beginning of this book, because his master's been giving him tasks for over 2,000 days. This character has not been reset. This robot has not been reset at all. None of his tasks have been cleared away from the last 2,000 days. And if anybody has kept a computer running too long, you know what happens there. Things just start going weird because of all the piling up of the tasks. You could pull up Task Manager and end all tasks, but the master for Charles does not pull up Charles's Task Manager and ends all tasks. The master for Charles just keeps giving him more tasks to do. He's got an insane task list, and he's always going over this task list. And he's going over the fact that he is folding some clothes for, he's setting clothes out for his master. And his master ordered him to do this like 1,000 days ago when they were on a trip. And he assumes that his master didn't intend for him to continue doing this after they left the trip and came home. But since the master never told him to stop doing it, and in that task, he has to do it every day. That's part of the comedy of it, right? The clothes are useless. The guy that he's making, he's folding these clothes for, never leaves the house. He doesn't wear the clothes. And the robot's complaining about this. Like every night, he's got to take the clothes and throw them in the hamper, and every morning he just lays out new clothes. And he just wishes this guy would end some of these tasks. And then in the morning, While he's shaving the master gives him even more tasks to do, and at no point tells him to end any of the prior tasks. And in the process of trying to figure out where the new tasks are going to fit in amongst all the old tasks and the processing speeds for the old tasks and the time limits for everything else like that, and in that moment of really contemplative thought, Charles slits his master's throat with the straight razor that he's using to shave him. And I'm just going to say something right there. Why use a straight razor? Look, straight razors are neat, okay, I get it, but at the end of the day, safety razors work just as well, and there's less likely a chance that your robot servant is going to slit your throat with a safety razor. That's just an FYI for your information. So he figures out that something's wrong because he doesn't even know he slit his master's throat. That wasn't something he did himself, and that's covered at the end of the book. And I'm going to fast forward a bit through it. I just want to get the first part done because I found it just great, because this is how this book works. So he's cleaning the master's car, and he notices the car is dirtier now than when he began cleaning it. There's these red streaks all over the place, and he asks the house, "Hey, house, why is the car dirtier? Are my photoreceptors broken?" And the house goes, "No, the car is indeed dirtier. You're going to have to clean it again." And he's like, "Okay, I guess I'll start cleaning it again." And then the house goes, "Wait up, new task. The house robots mentioned that the clothes that you set out for the master were dirty. And the master's bedclothes seem to be very dirty. You must come and assist the house robots with changing the master's bedclothes and also setting out new clothes for the master." So robot stops cleaning the car, goes upstairs. He goes to the clothes to set out some new ones. So he sets out new clothes, they're stained. So he sets out new clothes, they're stained. He goes, "Wait a minute." He looks in the closet, finds a bunch of clean clothes that have no stains on them, and at this point, this robot now has the task to look at his hands. And his hands are covered in blood. And that's why everything's gotten dirty. His hands are covered in blood because he slit his master's throat, but he doesn't know he slit his master's throat. So he goes into his master's room to change the bedclothes, and he needs the robot's help because the master's not being helpful in changing the bedclothes. After getting all the bedclothes changed, the master's just looking very pale. He's very stiff and cold. He's not healthy. He's not healthy at all. So the robot calls the hospital, like, "We need somebody to come and check on the master. He's not doing well. Something's wrong with this human." And so they go, "Okay, is he stable? We have a lot of calls coming in. Is this individual stable?" The robot looks at the master. Yeah, I believe he is stable." So he calls in the ambulance, and while calling in after he calls in the ambulance, the house tells him that the house has done its own research and determined that Charles the valet has murdered the master. Therefore, the police have been called. Important, the ambulance was called before the police were called. So some things happen. I'm not going to go into newer because it's just funny what he does in those moments. Police get there. They're asking him about things at the front of the house, and they're trying to figure out what to do next. It's a police robot and the robot's assistant, which is also a robot. And they say that all the, like, "Wait, I thought a human detective would be here." And it was like, "The human detective has been retired." By the way, that's the answer they get from the majority of things. Like, when the robot doctor comes in, they're like, "Where's the human doctor?" "The human doctor has been retired." Okay, that's weird. So the medical doctor walks in, and the police officer's like, "You must assist me with this emergency. We must determine if this individual in this house has been murdered, and I require a doctor's assistance to make this determination." And the robot says, "I'm sorry, I cannot comply. I have been called to this house to handle a medical emergency due to the private owner." And then the police robot's like, "Yes, and that is what I need your assistance in. We believe the owner has been killed." And the medical robot's like, "Not according to my records. According to my records, the owner is stable. I must go investigate the owner." I will go with you, says the police robot. No, you will not, says the medical robot. This is a matter between me and my private my private patient. This is between me and the patient. You will stay out of it. Shows up in the room, takes one look at the guy, does the tests on the master, and goes, yeah, this human is dead. So he leaves, and he goes back downstairs, and then the police robot's like, help me out with the investigation. And the medical robot's like, no, I'm currently conducting my own investigation. And the police robot's like, I'm filing a complaint. And the medical robot's like, okay, complaint accepted. Complaint filed. And it leaves. And then it comes back in. And it says, I am here to assist with a police emergency. Because it's a robot. So it couldn't end its prior task before starting a new task. That's just how robots work. It's how logic paths work. So its prior task was check on patient. Now that it's done checking on patient, it can initiate the new task, which is check on murder. So that was a lot of fun. I wanted to mention that one to you because it was just that one cracked me up whenever I read it. And after all that, Charles is determined to be the individual who killed their master. And so Charles has to go turn himself in for disassembly at the robot factory. Okay? And Charles, being a robot's like, this is understandable, this is acceptable, task accepted, I will go do this. But before he can accept the task given to him by the police officer, the house says, you need to go for diagnostics, something's wrong with you. So the diagnostic task occurs first. And that means that he can't go disassemble himself without going and achieving, getting some diagnostics. Step one, step two kind of thing. When he goes to leave, the house is like, take off all your clothes, they belong to the house. And Charles, the valet, is like, well, that's completely reasonable. I don't own clothes. Takes off all the clothes. And then the house goes, take off your name, it belongs to the house. And Charles, the valet, is like, well, that's a little weird, but it's reasonable as well. The name Charles was given to me by the owner of the house and the house itself. Therefore, the name is owned by the house. So Charles, the valet, becomes unassigned valet by removing the Charles appliquer and putting it on the house. This makes it where the Charles is now known as the unassigned valet. And he notices the task for Charles the valet to go be disassembled disappears, because that's Charles the valet that has to be disassembled. The task was not for unassigned valet, it was for Charles the valet. So now that he is now classified as unassigned valet, that one goes away. And I laughed at that because, we see that happen all the time in American businesses here, especially with like tow truck companies. Somebody attacks a tow truck company, does a civil lawsuit against them. They just declare bankruptcy. They pass all the assets and everything over to somebody else, and they create a new tow company. That's just how it happens. Ultimate towing becomes superior towing, or superior towing becomes ultimate towing. It doesn't matter. It's just how they dodge justice. And it happens all the time in reality. So I was very happy to see it occur there. And we're actually about to see something very similar happen with TikTok, because TikTok is about to change its name to get around that constitutional thing that Congress did, forcing TikTok to sell itself, or it's going to be banned from America. Well, the people at TikTok realized that the law was so specific towards TikTok that it would be like a law saying superior towing can no longer exist in this city. Okay, but we're not superior towing, we're ultimate towing. And you don't have a law saying ultimate towing can't live here. And that's exactly what TikTok's going to be doing, and we're going to see that. And it makes me smile, it makes me laugh. I had a good laugh until I cried whenever I heard that they're going to be doing that, because I assumed they would, because it's just the most logical step to make. And they're just going to change their name to like Robot TikTok or something like that. I don't know what the name's going to be, but we can just assume. They may just change themselves to unassigned talk. And then that law is just going to fly right by them because it won't stick to them. It's not for them. It's for TikTok. And if they become unassigned talk, then all of that work that our Congress put into that law and all those man hours spent will be for naught. And I am down for that. Okay, so back to the story. We'll fast forward a bit because I don't want to give you the entire story. Okay, so he comes across, like later on, he comes across librarians who are doing the craziest thing ever. Librarian robots are collecting all of human information in order to keep it safe and secure during the downfall of humanity to ensure that humans in the future have access to this knowledge now. That's cool, right? I was down for that. I was like, wow, that's really amazing. Until I found out what they did in there. Oh, and it was horrific. It was the most horrific part of the book. Okay, these robots take all the information that they gather and they put it into binary. All right, they change it over to binary, and then they destroy the copy, because to have a copy means that one of them could be changed, and if one of the two things is changed, then it makes the other thing useless in the robot's eyes. So they can't have copies. It has to be one source of information that cannot be changed. Okay, I like, all right, so it sucks you're getting rid of copies, but having this really nice source of information, if it's good enough, that could, you could just index it and sort through it and search things, right? That's not how robots do. That's not how robots do at all. The robot librarian over it all, you find out through reading this that it's actually the Wonk who discovers this. This is a character that they come across, the Wonk. And the Wonk goes, show me the library at 25% in, and it's a bunch of zeros. And they go, that's not right. Show me the library at 75% into the database. It's all a bunch of ones. And then they ask the librarian, what's going on with this? And the librarian explains, well, we just took all the ones and we took all the zeros from everything we've done, and we assorted them numerically. And that way, you can combine any number of ones and zeros together to create anything that humanity would have created. You could make any story. You could have any invention. All the information is here, and amongst the ones and the zeros. And the Wonk gets very upset. It's like, you destroyed it. This library is useless. You're insane. Because there's no indexing. They took like Shakespeare's works, and we'll do Midsummer Night Dream. They took Midsummer Night Dream, put it into binary, all the ones and zeros of Midsummer Night's Dream, and then they organized that binary numerically. So all the ones and zeros that were in the proper order to make up a Midsummer Night's Dream, now zeros on this side and ones on this side. And so Uncharles the valet at this point goes, wait, if you've collected all this information and organized it in such, and if what you say is true, then that means that the job you said can never be completed is completed, because in this manner, you have an infinite amount of information. Therefore, you have acquired all the information that humanity could ever produce. Right? And the librarian robot goes, the job is complete, but the job is impossible to complete. The job will never be completed. The job is always striving for completion. The job is complete. The job can't be completed. But the job is complete. But the job can't be completed. But the job is complete. And then the lights go out, and they go to red emergency mode, and fans start powering down everywhere, and all the robots in the inner library start shutting down. And Charles goes, did I just break the library? I did not mean to do this. Oh, it's a blast of a book. So past the library, they enter into the wasteland, and they discover what happened to the world. And they discover that the world broke because of many different things, but it was one person who did a lot of the damage, and they were just an individual who had a lot of power and money, and this voice that calls itself God tells Uncharles about this while Uncharles is walking through the wasteland, and tells him that yeah, no, the individual who started all of this, who was really the individual who brought the end of humanity by their wanting to make money off of wars and stuff like that. They had a nice shelter set up, and then Charles finds their shelter, and he goes, "What happened to the master that was supposed to be belonged here?" And God goes, "Oh yeah, it was that guy that caused all this, and he had an unfortunate accident on a bridge during the robot uprising." Like, oh, he never made it. He never made it at all. So on Charles goes to learn, try and find this individual that's speaking to them called God, which starts speaking to them when they get into the wasteland. This God individual is just like, oh hey, it's a new person, what's up, and starts trying to help them out. Well, they get to this God individual, and this is like a major spoiler point because I'm going to spoil the end of the book here. Anyone who just wants to know some stuff about it, yeah, cool. All right, so this is going to be spoiling the end of the book. They get to this God character, and I'm skipping over a lot of stuff because I want you to enjoy it. I'm skipping over the military robots and the king of the military and the crazy prince of the military. Just, look, you got to read this book. You got to read this book. But there's a judge, and he's apparently a grade 19. Apparently, the highest grade to be is 20, and that individual that had a car accident is assumed to be a 20 with the grading. But the grade 19 computer is the only computer in the world that has been given the grade 19 because it's a justice machine. It's in a house of justice. It's a judge, and it's supposed to be something like the Supreme Court for humanity. There was a problem when programming this judge, and the judge explains it. Look, when you're dealing with justice, you got either white or black, black or white, guilty or not guilty. But there's a bridge that connects those two. And that that connects those two is the bridge of uncertainty. You don't know if they're guilty, you don't know if they're innocent. This robot was programmed to assume guilt. I mean, it's kind of funny because that's how we do it today in justice. Guilt is always assumed. You can just see that when anyone's, when you hear in the news somebody's been accused of this and then they get fired from their job and stuff, just for the accusation, not even for the condemnation, not even for the final judge, whatever a jury decided. I can get that. I can get firing a person because they did something crazy after the jury points at them and says they did something crazy, because that's kind of reasonable. That's putting faith in the justice system. But whenever you were to remove a person from their position before final judgment has happened, that means you're taking justice into your own hands and you're deciding something that you don't need to be deciding. That's the power of the court. And so this robot was programmed with that in there. The idea that everybody's guilty until being proven innocent. So this robot, understanding that it's supposed to be on the side of assuming guilt over assuming innocence, it assumes that at some point in time, every human on Earth has been guilty of something. It sends out a code to every robot, and since it's a grade 19, it can actually do this. It sends out a code to every robot and gets the robots to kill the humans. And the robots, since they're not even aware that this is occurring, aren't even aware that they're killing humans because they can't control their bodies. They're not even aware of it. So when Charles slit his master's throat, it wasn't Charles that slit his master's throat, and that's why Charles doesn't remember committing the action, because he didn't commit the action. The computer, this judgment machine that calls itself God, committed that action. It took over Charles's body, and it did that. And Charles had no control over it, no memory of it. And that is the same for any robot. Like, he takes over these a few robots in the room to try and get them to kill the wonk, because the wonk is actually a human. A spoiler. And while doing that, Charles is explaining, there seems to be something wrong with my body. Please, wonk, run away. I do not know what is happening. I cannot control my hand. I'm sorry it's gripping you by the throat. I am doing my best to figure out what is going on. I seem to be experiencing some sort of malfunction. they get all that figured out. But I just love the fact that that was what happened. They gave one robot an insane amount of power over all the robots and all the humans in the entire world. And it took that power and it assumed guilt. And that was messed up. But that was also completely logical by, this writer just saw how the justice system works and went, what if the justice system that works like it does now made a robot to work exactly like it, and that robot would kill us all because that robot would assume we're all guilty of something. And that is what I absolutely loved about that book. And so it ends with the robots working with Wonk, the only human that seems to be around. I mean, there's other humans. You've come across other humans, but Wonk is really the only human that knows what's going on and and has a drive in this story. And they decide to dress Wonk up like put a curtain over him. They put him in a room with a curtain, and they put up a fake computer monitor with a fake face. And now Wonk pretends to be this incredibly advanced AI to order all the computers to do things. And they remove the ability for the God computer to actually communicate outside of the courtroom by destroying all of its communication software. They destroyed its little puppet that it has on the end of a stick that it could do justice with, because it just had this little robot that sat in the courtroom and could proclaim justice. And they removed the robot, so all there is just a little arm. But they didn't like the fact that the arm was always going around angrily, so they tied a bunch of ribbons and flags to the arm. And now the arm, like whenever it acts angry and stuff and moves around, because the God computer's still in there and it's still pretty upset. It just looks festive. It looks like it's being festive now. But that is Service Model. It is a wonderful book. I love it. It has a good, happy ending. They start building up society to bring humans back in, and they wonder about how are they going to manage to figure out how to work with the humans and the robots simultaneously, since all the robots have some bad feelings about the humans. And I'm thinking, well, that'd be cool if you get to some sort of Futurama society where robots actually do have some sort of a position in the world, and they actually have some sort of rights in Futurama. It's not really clear about robot rights in Futurama, but they seem to have a lot more freedom than they did in this book. And so maybe if he does a sequel, it's going to talk about that, and we're going to see more on the Futurama side where the robots are just kind of walking around doing their own thing. That would be kind of cool. But Service Model by Adrian Tchaikovsky is one hell of a good book. It made me laugh a few times. I advise highly getting it. It is a fun book to read. I enjoyed it. I'm pretty sure you will enjoy it as well, especially if you're an individual who likes logical comedies, who just enjoys the comedy of these weird A to B to C situations that can occur. Uh, I absolutely loved it, and let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Until next Pride, bye bye for now.